were to make a list of the professionals that you respect most, how high would you place pastors and other clergy? Maybe higher than most Americans. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. This is Breakpoint. My pastor recently told me that 25 years ago, the first person that people would contact when they faced a marriage crisis was their pastor. 10 years ago, he continued, it was their counselor or psychiatrist. Today, he says, it's their lawyers. A recent study conducted by the Associated Press and the University of Chicago seems to concur. Doctors, teachers, members of the military, and scientists are, according to the survey, esteemed more positively than clergy. Among infrequent churchgoers, clergy are viewed as negatively as lawyers. For the record, that last line came from a member of our editorial team who's been admitted to the bar in at least 2 states. As my pastor observed, the declining respect for clergy is a trend, and it's a trend both in and out of the church, including among those who attend church frequently. While 75% of churchgoers hold clergy in high regard, they aren't as positive when it comes to the personal attributes or character qualities of the clergy. Barely half consider clergy to be trustworthy. Only slightly more regard them as honest and intelligent. Now remember, these are people who attend church at least once a month. Among those who seldom or never attend church, the respective numbers on those questions are 23 and 30%. Now the obvious question is, why? At least a significant part of the answer is cultural. As Religion News Service pointed out, historians say public attitudes about clergy have been waning since the 1970s in tandem with the loss of trust in institutions after the Vietnam War and Watergate. But actually, the decline in trust and disregard for institutions predates Watergate and the end of the Vietnam War. After all, the 1964 free speech movement at Berkeley had a signature saying, "We don't trust anyone over 30." And that line came to sum up the view of many baby boomers towards all authority, governmental, parental, and clerical included. Institutions like governments and churches were at best obstacles and at worst enemies of personal liberation. And though the VW vans that dotted the Woodstock landscape have long since rusted away, the commitment to personal liberation and autonomy has only intensified in the half-century since then. Today, many Americans embrace expressions of personal liberation that wouldn't have even occurred to the people dancing to Santana in the New York mud. I mean, it's one thing to think you're liberated from the man. It's another thing to think you're liberated from observable reality. But if Christians are honest with ourselves, we'll also have to admit that cultural attitudes toward authority and institutions aren't the only reason for the waning respect when it comes to clergy. Some of that is the result of self-inflicted wounds. After all, scarcely a week goes by without another report of another clergy sex abuse, scandal, or some other horrible conduct. Given the scope and the sheer number of these scandals, and the fact that they cross denominational lines from Roman Catholic to Protestant to evangelical, it'd be a miracle if regard for the clergy hadn't diminished in some way. Now, this is tragic news because so many lives have been devastated, and because so many people now personally know someone whose life has been devastated. Look, I don't need to tell you that the vast majority of clergy are honest and caring people who have answered the Lord's call and are doing the best they can to shepherd his flock, and that they're doing what they do out of love for others. But their reputation is harmed also. And that's what makes this such a huge loss, because when done right, clergy can represent, embody, and offer a kind of love that's simply indispensable during the inevitable bad times we face. It's indispensable to individuals, to families, to communities. It's indispensable to our entire nation. Theirs is a role that has been uniquely given to the church, and one that simply cannot be replicated across any of the other spectrums of society. What they offer is especially missed, especially when it's needed most. For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet.